a red flag flying here.
And we are live, and it is all systems go. Welcome, listeners, to Political. This is a very, oh, by the way, just before we start, tomorrow I'm speaking at the Northeast Procurement Organisation, an event that they've laid on. It's got 75 firms representing 10,000, more than 10,000 employees, and we're speaking about social value, particularly climate procurement, performance indicators. And so I've just, my head is full of TOMs and PIs and NEPO and things like that. I've been writing this speech. And so if I seem off it today, then my guests are going to be 100% full out, go, because this is a very exciting edition. This is our 26th edition, and as you all know, it is our half birthday. We are 6 months old, exactly. Sort of when, so what you don't know, Fiona, is that sort of, oh, by the way, Fiona's our new guest. I'll talk to you in a little while when I finish traveling on. And the thing is that we started off on Aycliffe Radio, and really we were sort of hounded out. And after a while, to sort of nurse our wounds, we started up on Socialist Think Tank, and we're sort of quite nervously. So here we are 6 months later, going strong. Congratulations, everybody. And congratulations, listeners. At least we've had the fun of talking. You're the ones who had to listen to it all. And so you deserve a medal. We are 6 months old. Whoopie-doo. It's also the penultimate one before Christmas. We're going to do one more, and then we're going to back off for the Christmas period. So it's a big meeting tonight. Thank you very much. And my guest, first of all, we welcome a new guest, Fiona. Hiya.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having us. Apologies for the technical difficulties. I'm using a very old, decrepit Mac, and it decided not to play a game. But here at last.
It's great to see you, and sort of tell us something about yourself, Fiona, so that the listeners can know who you are.
Well, the exciting bit is I'm in a punk band, so we have a very strong socialist message. I would say most of our songs are political. So check out Slalom D. We do have a song entitled No Pazaran, which I noticed that you finished with. So
we do, yes.
I feel right at home. And in my day job, I am an art tutor, and I work specifically with people with learning disabilities and mental health issues. And we encourage creativity through art in a drop-in centre, which is probably about the best job you can get, really. So that's a little bit about me. And a lifelong, I want to say a lifelong, always had an interest in politics, especially left-leaning politics.
That's good. We hope that you're just a bit free with your tongue tonight and say a few indiscreet things.
I'm going to try not to, but it will happen.
You don't have to. Lovely about the band. The music we start with is my son's band. He was in a band for a while, and so he's given us permission to use that. No Pass Around is the Joe Solo thing, but in the middle we have a little clip of Paul Daly singing and Laura drumming, his wife Laura drumming. So it's very exciting, and we get very kind of headbanging there. So you'll be able to join in. It's lovely to see you. Thank you so much. It's a great honour that you come to join us.
Oh, thank you.
Then, yeah, the rest of the team is here. Hi, Paul.
Hello.
Okay.
Yeah, grand.
He's not okay. He's really cross and sort of
livid.
He's absolutely bouncing.
This is my angry face.
He's bouncing. He's bouncing, but I daren't mention what he's bouncing about because we've been forbidden, and so that's mainly why he's bouncing.
You can't tell it's his angry face because he's got a Lego head, which is,
I've got Lego hair.
You've got a Lego head. No, you
Lego
can't have a
hair.
Lego hair without a Lego head. How would it fit on?
He looks too young. We have it officially.
Oh yeah,
sort of-
that was fun. That one, yeah. Maybe
Sort
something
of,
else to get
and
angry about.
so look forward to Paul's comments later on. And so I'm taking too long with this, but there we go. Secondly, Samantha, how are you?
Yeah, I'm all right.
I'm looking forward to your moment of the week.
It's very exciting if you like chickens.
Which I think sort of keeping up with the chickens is one of the main things that we're about on this show. And finally, hi Stuart. Okay,
I'm decent, yeah.
all prepared for next week?
Well, I think so, possibly. Who knows?
All the best. Just the in-joke there is that it's selection meetings. The Labour Party is selecting its county councillors. Have you done any yet, Samantha? Have Bishop Auckland CLP done any yet?
No, but mine's next week as well.
They're all next week. But basically, the way the Labour Party always works, they left it till the very last moment. So we've just managed to squeeze it in before Christmas. So it's all being done sort of treble fast. He said, oh, plenty of time. Ah, we're late. Okay, and sort of, and that's the end of my welcomes. Welcome to you, listener, and just as an aside, Fiona arrived so late because of the technical problems that we haven't had any time to prepare the meeting. Are you aware that you have a moment of the week to think of?
I do have yes, I did read the email.
That's good. It's good. I
have got a moment of the week.
You've got time to blag it if you didn't. Okay. Well, let's start with the most exciting news in Sheldon. Samantha, moment of the week.
It's not for Sheldon, it's for the whole of the UK, John. It's a very serious issue. You might think we've got it bad in the human world, but there is also a chicken plague going around. And we're under it from the 14th, maybe the 16th, from very soon. All chickens need to be kept indoors. Now, some chicken moms on the internet, right? Some of them don't quite understand farm terms. So they've actually brought their chickens inside their house, which is not what indoors means. It means
You'll regret that.
Yes, they need to be kept in. My mum was like, do you need to bring your chickens in your house? Do you have space in your house for your chicken? No. They need to live in a structure with a roof so that other birds don't poop on their heads. Because that's how you get bird flu, apparently.
And so chickens are under lockdown.
Yes, chicken lockdown. I've got to build them, or someone in my house has got to build them a chicken run. So
Hi, Alex. Enjoy. So sort of, and so is this tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, or full lockdown?
I mean, I hope. I think it's probably equivalent of tier 3 because they're not allowed. They've got to be kept in and penned in. I think the next tier is taking them to the pet food factory. It's pretty brutal. Like you thought human lockdown was hard, but chicken lockdown, if you don't stay in where you're meant to be, you get your head chopped off, I think.
Sort of, don't give Boris any ideas. I'm going to go to Paul. Moment of the week.
This is about sort of the extreme capitalist version of patriotism. So Jim Radcliffe, who owns Ineos, is building a new car called the Grenadier, and the cycling team Ineos are now called the Ineos Grenadiers, and it's this like kind of all-terrain vehicle, which is a bit doesn't look particularly environmentally friendly, but like the whole idea was he backed Brexit. He thinks Britain is going to be the best country in the world, and he was going to build the Grenadier here, but they decided to build it in France instead, because of Brexit. So yeah, that's the kind of patriotism we see from these people who were so patriotic, and I'm a bit sick to death of this kind of false patriotism narrative, and we aren't patriotic because we want to have good lives for everyone who live in our communities, things like that. That's not patriotism. What it is, it's some sort of bland sense of empire that we can shout about. That's patriotism, but not looking after people who live close to you in your communities. And it's I'm sick to death of that ridiculous version of patriotism that we're told we're unpatriotic. Furious, but that's not what I'm furious about in general. But I'm furious about that one as well.
You're just an angry man at the moment. I'm going to be very gentle and sweet with you. Do you get the impression? I just get the impression that Brexit is just crumbling in front of our very eyes. I mean, it really is falling apart, isn't it?
I'm going to read you a tweet from 18th of September in the build-up to the elections last year, 18th of September 2019, from the UK Prime Minister. Today's announcement from INEOS will deliver hundreds of new jobs in Bridgend and is a vote of confidence in UK expertise, making sure we keep our status as a pioneer in new vehicle technologies. So they've actually used this in order to get elected last year, this idea that INEOS were going to build this thing here, and they're just not. They're not.
I'm increasingly despondent.
I'm not anti-Brexit. I'm anti the way they've done it. You know, like I think we should have left the EU when they voted to leave. I just think that we could have done it in such a better way. And those people who need to put the money where the mouth is as well, if they said they were going to invest in Britain, then do it. Don't say you're going to, and then do something else.
They don't care about Britain, just care about the money. I remind everybody that I said we ought to, when we voted out, I said we ought to accept May's deal. Just remember that. Just remember that. There we go. Stuart, moment of the week.
Oh, this was a dead easy one for me because it was my daughter made me very proud. What we'd done is we went to the shops and my daughter wanted to buy some toys to go into the charity box for the kids who are maybe going without or need extra support and just needed a bit of hope. And out of her own money, her own cash that she'd saved up, she bought several toys and donated them. I won't say where because I'm not trying to make political capital out of my daughter. I won't stick it on Facebook, but I was very proud of my daughter.
And there's nothing more to be said. Actually, all over Facebook and the media at the moment, people are rising to the challenge, and it's so easy to get bitter and angry about all the hatred in the world, and there's a lot of it. But there's this undercurrent of really decent people really doing decent things, and God bless them. And tell your daughter we're very proud of her too. And finally, Fiona, welcome to the show. Moment of the week.
Moment of the week seems a little bit trivial. I couldn't listen to everybody else's, but it really struck me. It was Swampy, if you can remember
I can remember Swampy.
Yeah, has been arrested yet again. So he's still at it. So he was at Stonehenge, and about 100 people were there to protest. And they happened to mention that Swampy was there. And I loved the idea that somebody that was in our consciousness so long ago, and that people thought, not people, the mainstream media would make comments about was still doing something and still being an activist and, hadn't grown out of that stage and that kind of, and it just, I really like the fact that he was still there and that there are people still protesting.
I like the idea of not growing out of caring about things.
Exactly.
Not growing out of being rebellious. Sort of hang on to that.
Well, we're all told that as you get older, you get more conservative or you get more... I'm not finding that's the case at all. I've just turned 50 and I'm much worse than I ever was.
Get more grumpy. What was he protesting about at Stonehenge?
They are going to build a tunnel at the side of Stonehenge to apparently alleviate traffic.
Oh yes, I
think it's basically just to stop you getting it's to stop you getting a free look at it, I think, as you drive past.
Oh.
But I'm just assuming that. But however, they have spoke to archaeologists that have worked on the site, and they're just going to destroy a lot of the area that hasn't been properly excavated yet and looked at. And once they do this, it's gone forever. And I know there are a lot more important things going on at the minute. But just that story. It's another example of the government going, we haven't had an idea, we don't care what anybody else says, we're going to go through with it. Nobody can stop us. It's just another example.
Thank you very much indeed. That was a fabulous moment of the weekend. Well done, Swampy. Okay. Oh, right, Paul.
Now it's time for the big story.
And the big story, of course, this week is vaccines. And the element of that story that you just fancy being the first person in the world to get the vaccine on the NHS. Do you not find it exciting? And some 90-year-old woman stumped up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and there she is. Let's hope it keeps her safe. Paul, talk to us about what people wanted to talk to you particularly about is the distribution, the order of distribution, and the fact that they promised it to care home residents and then they not. What you come and be angry about this, Paul?
Well, so I'm a little bit more mellow about this because I'm a bit of a realist when it comes to this. When you've got this new technology, it's very, very difficult. And I think, you know, we're often accused on the left of trying to make political capital out of things, but we often see the opposite's the case. You know, it's the right wing who's trying to make political capital. We heard Gavin Williamson say that Britain got this because we're a better country than everyone else, and this will solve all our problems, and this is a miracle and things like that. And it is a superb thing, and I'm very pleased that we've got a vaccine.
Oh, where was it invented, Paul?
Sorry. Oh, it was developed in Germany by 2 Turkish immigrants who were refugees, and I think maybe not refugees. I'm not 100% sure on that one. And it's manufactured in Belgium, but we were the first country to approve it. The Americans said that maybe we rushed it a little bit, but perhaps not. I don't know. I think I will trust in science on this one. I do think it's important that we trust in experts rather than what we just hear from someone who watched I Am Legend. So, you know, it's not the same as science. Science is a really difficult thing, and people have spent years of their lives trying to get it right. So I would hope we would trust in science. But it is a very complicated thing, so it needs to be refrigerated. There are only a certain number of distribution centers, and it needs to be kept below a certain temperature for a certain amount of time. So because it needs to be kept at this temperature, it needs to go to a distribution center. Our nearest one is Newcastle, I believe, although I believe they may be taking it to James Cook as well. But if you look at the distribution centers around the country, the Northeast is looking very, very sparse. Very few distribution centers around here. And because of these difficulties, they will not be going into care homes. So even though this first wave was meant to be people over a certain age and people in care homes, actually they aren't going to be able to get it because of the difficulties with administering this vaccine.
I mean, are they going to be bringing in different vaccines that they can take into care?
So there's another one that's very similar to this one. The one for me that looks really promising is the Oxford one. That can be kept at a much more sensible temperature. It still needs to be kept refrigerated, but it's not like -70, which the Pfizer vaccine is. And it's also a much more tried and tested method of vaccination. So this Pfizer vaccine, they call it the Pfizer vaccine. It's not a Pfizer vaccine. This is how big pharmaceutical companies work. You have state-funded researchers who do all this work, and then that gets bought by a big company who manufacture it and make a lot of profit out of it. So that is how our system works. So it's not a Pfizer vaccine. It's a small company who've made this.
Let's see, Fiona, what's your take on all this vaccine and stuff?
Yeah, I'm like a lot of people. I'm really excited that they are rolling this out, but I don't have any faith in them, in their ability. I mean, when you look back over the year of how the government have handled things, I just think, I mean, my partner jokes, they should just use ice cream vans. They're all standing about doing nothing. They've all got freezers. And I thought, I hope nobody in power ever hears you say that, because they'll have a go. I I have faith in the vaccine and science. I don't have faith in the government getting it to us. And I read somewhere that the UK regulator, it's provided in doses of 975. And the reason they couldn't get it to care homes is they weren't allowing those packages to be split up. But I couldn't find a reason for them not being split up. I don't know whether I did a tiny bit of research, which I mean by Google.
It's like temperature control. It's that once you open a fridge, you let some of the cold
So it
out.
needs to be that amount.
Yeah,
Right.
so they're not splitting them up, so you don't let any cold out.
Thank you very much.
Any heat in.
Yeah.
That's the way physics
Right,
works.
okay.
You don't let cold out, you let heat in. Sorry, I'm being a pedant. But yeah. Cold is the
Sorry,
absence of
I'm learning.
cold is the
lots.
absence of heat.
The cold comes out the bottom and the heat goes in the top, doesn't it? So
The cold doesn't come out, heat goes in. Heat is energy,
What
cold
I've
is lack of
learned
energy.
is they kept in pizza boxes, right? That's what the man said.
So, can somebody explain to me, Sam? Do you understand this? Sort of, Paul will be the expert.
Really
but,
not.
I mean, if it's minus 70 and they inject it into you, sure, it just kills it stone dead. I mean, they must let it come to room temperature first.
No, they have to. Yes, because it would kill you if you did that.
Word. I mean, I have to warm up Barbara's insulin before we inject her, sort of like this. So anyway, so they're talking about distribution. Are you angry about the distribution? Are you sort of? I mean, what are they going to do about old people in care homes? Samantha.
Yeah, I mean that is the question. That is the question, isn't it? And there does seem to be most people seem to be saying that the next vaccine will be along soon, and that'll be more suitable. But I mean, it's just typical of this government, isn't it? We've drawn up a list of the people who are going to get it first. Actually, we can't do it that way because we've not thought through our list. We've just written it on the back of a fag packet again. And one thing that I want to highlight is the fact that, unlike Scotland, we've missed unpaid carers off the list. Now, I've had a debate with a friend about this. She disagrees, but we've got loads of unpaid carers in this country. And it's not the case that the unpaid carers are necessarily more vulnerable to COVID themselves. But if they are laid out, there is nobody left to look after the person who they are caring for, and there is not a suitable safety net in social services or in the care home sector or anything like that. So I just think it's a shame that once again government has shown that it doesn't care about carers.
How are they calling people up? Do you get a letter saying you've got to roll up to the I mean, are they sending out 50 million letters?
I don't know how old you think I look,
Well,
definitely not one of the first to be
I'll
called.
be getting a letter before you. I mean,
That's what they seem to say. You will be told. Apparently, a gentleman went to the RVI today to ask for a vaccine. That's not how you do it. You wait until you get a letter and then you go.
what if they miss you? Do you just so you can?
What if they miss you?
It very much sounded like on one of the things I was reading today that they're storing it in these distribution points, and they said they'll catch carers if they have a hospital appointment. So it's almost like they're going to keep hold of it and wait till suitable people walk through the door. And I'm not sure how viable, that it was literally said that anybody that worked in the care facility that had a hospital appointment would be offered the vaccine. And it's like, well, that's quite a random way to divvy it out. It doesn't seem particularly.
Stuart?
Did nobody in government have any insight into the idea that we might have needed refrigeration, the infrastructure, a plan in place before this vaccine showed up? Did it just drop out of the sky on them? Did anybody plan? Because it doesn't feel like it.
I mean, I don't mind waiting. I'm 68. Sort of, I'm well down the list. I can just sort of remain under house arrest. There's no problem with this at all. It's just that I haven't really got a clear idea of what order they're doing it in, and And you're right, Stuart. They just seem to make it up as they go along, and sort of, oh, we haven't thought of that. Oh, well, this is the rule for that. And it's like a poor teacher, isn't it, Paul? You know, they haven't really thought out the lesson plan, and so they're making up all these things, and they seem to contradict other things they said. Sort of a wise thought, Stuart, to close us with on vaccinations. Sort of, do you know how many of us have got to have it before it works? Because it doesn't work until a certain percentage has got it. Do you know what that percentage is?
I think it's about
70-ish.
I thought it was about 85, but that might be
In the range of 70 to 85, I think I saw.
Yeah, sort of. It's contagious. The more contagious it is, the bigger the proportion of the population. So if a lot of people refuse to have it, it sort of the disease doesn't go away. It needs to get sort of very high. Anyway, thank you very much, everybody, for your comments about that. And sort of as I look at these young people in front of me, sort of you can guarantee we're still going to be talking about this for you through in next summer, I think. I think it'll be next summer before we get around to you. I'm going to bring in now. Oh, hang on. Yes, we're going to admit Jake Miller now.
We need a jingle for this bit, don't we?
Well, this is the candidate. This is the candidate. Okay, but
he was a history teacher, not a music teacher.
Listen, I used to say this while he's coming in. One of the things I used to threaten them with is I used to say, if you can't work quietly, I will sing to you. You do it like a champ. Hi, Jake Miller.
Hello, you all right?
Hi, so welcome. You are the candidates. You are the. I've been singing to people while you've been. We've been waiting for you to connect. Briefly, tell us about yourself before we ask you your three questions, Jake. Who are you, and just tell us about yourself.
Well, thank you for having me on.
No, it's our honour.
Well, I'm Jake. I'm 26. I'm from Wheatley Hill. I'm a law student in my final year, finishing June. Been a parish councillor since I was 18, chairman for the past 3 or 4 years. Love the area, passionate about the area, get involved in as much as I can.
Which area of the law are you specialising in?
Hopefully criminal, but we'll see.
Okay, well, it's sort of we may need to call on you as go on. The sort of civil litigation would have been a good answer there, I think. So I love the clock above your head, actually, Jake. Sort of
can't take credit for that. It was mine.
Everybody's always fascinated by what's going on behind you. Stuart's got a Christmas tree with a huge star on the top. And I have to say, Fiona, your house just looks spectacularly wonderful.
It does with the lights turned down, which is
no, it's great. Right, Jake, as you know, you are next week. You've just hit double top on the timing, haven't you? Next week, everybody is going before their branches to ask them to will you make me your candidate in the May elections, and you're going to be standing for Trimdon and Thornley. We asked the same questions to all the candidates, and so my question is this: why do you want to be a Labour county councillor?
Well, both my granddads were miners and heavily involved in the Labour Party, and so I grew up on stories of what it was like to go through the rough times, the miners' strike and not having any money. By the way, not what Tories think not having any money is, literally not having a penny and not knowing where the next income's going to come from. My granddad and a group of other Labour people setting up a table outside our local co-op and relying on donations from other members of the public. Him driving a van across the county, driving it back full of frozen turkeys so that people can have Christmas dinners. That to me is what the Labour Party is. It's about the community and everybody in it coming together to look after each other, to support one another. When I was 19, I expressed interest in running for county, and a county councillor told me not to bother because I was too young and inexperienced. So I politely sat back, I watched, I listened, I learned. And since becoming chairman, I think I've done things what I'm proud of. In terms of a working relationship, I brought the community centre and therefore the community as a whole closer together. It was my idea to fully fund the community activities that happen at the community centre for young people, to fully fund the Meals on Wheels programmes, to look after vulnerable children and families during school holidays by providing, activity packs or events. And I would do just that as a Labour councillor. I know my experience is just Wheatley Hill, but that's my remit at the minute, and I would hope through my experience and in my abilities I can do that for the whole ward, or branch, or patch, or whatever anybody calls it.
I mean, we are allowed to make comments and rejoin us. I find this to be the case with many new councillors, Jake, that what happens is that when they sign up to be the county councillor, their focus is still the local work that they've been involved with. When you get to County Hall, and pray God that you do, you will find that your focus is then the whole county, and you can tell I've been talking about procurement all day. The county council, I don't know how big Trindon is, but Great Aycliffe Town Council has a precept of £1.3 million a year. Durham County Council is a £1.3 billion a year organisation, and it's not just that your scope grows by a factor of £1,000, but your ability to change the world, your ability to do things grows by a factor of 1,000 as well. And when you get there, you will find that that your scope to do good is so hugely enhanced. But anyway, Paul, what's your question to Jake?
Just before my question, I'm going to check onto it. Is that the Green Hills Centre?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, they're doing absolutely fantastic work. So congratulations on that. I've done a couple of deliveries through the COVID crisis through that, and the work they are doing is absolutely out of this world. So if you pass on our thanks, that would be much appreciated. And thank you to you as well.
Thank you for you to volunteer during this crisis.
It's the least I can do. And also we would be encouraging younger people to step up. I think we need a lot more younger people on county council and taking that interest. So that's absolutely outstanding. Okay. So what particular thing or things would you like to seek to do as a county councillor if you were elected?
Well, obviously I want to represent the views of, local residents and address their issues. And I do that through holding, surgeries, although obviously when we're allowed to. And obviously, as a parish councillor, I understand that the relationship between county and parish is really, really important. And I would get to know those 7. I think there's 7 parish councillors in this area. I would get to know those and have a good working relationship, hopefully, with them. But for me personally, there's 3 main issues, I think, for this community as a whole. And the first one is crime, antisocial behaviour. No matter what the police tell us at parish council meetings, crime is not going down. If it is statistically, it's going up in the severity of the crimes that are happening. We had 8 cars that were burnt out in the space of 2 weeks. We've never had crimes like this, arson, armed robberies, gang violence in a little village is just unheard of. Antisocial behaviour is through the roof in this village. We've got people that are terrified of walking along the front street because they're frightened of being verbally abused, physically abused, stones thrown at them. The quad bikes, which I know is a huge problem in this area, not just this village, but across the whole of County Durham. I've had many meetings with the police and other agencies, and the response is exactly that. There's a bigger problem in Peterlee or Dalton. That answer just isn't good enough all the time. I asked for a meeting with Wingate Parish Council, with Thornley Parish Council, the police and other agencies, and we agreed to fully fund the select DNA sprays to help tackle the issue. I attended a meeting this morning to deal with like a hotspot of antisocial behaviour on quad bikes in our area, and we've agreed something for the end of this month, beginning of next month. I am a big supporter of the police, but I'm not a one for speaking about the same issue over and over and over again. I like to talk about it once, and then I like to have a plan of action. What solutions are available? What can we do? We're voted for to help and support people. Talking about the same issue isn't helping anybody. The second issue is our medical facilities. Our new surgery costs millions of pounds. John, you mentioned the budget, millions of pounds. It's failed 3 CQC reports. The average wait time for an appointment is 3 weeks. People get told, well, you can go to this village or go to that village, or you can wait even longer to go to your appointment in your own village, which is a problem in itself because public transport in this area isn't the best. It sometimes takes 3 or sometimes 4 buses to get to a village that's 10 minutes away. And obviously people have the expense. And I think what, this pandemic has highlighted is everybody's health is a priority, and we need to ensure that people receive the proper care that they deserve. The third issue that I think, links everything together is I used to work but that we need to represent and help vulnerable people in our communities. I used to work in a homeless hostel, 72 16 to 25-year-olds. Majority had drug and or alcohol issues. Mental health was a real issue, which it is, nationally. I've dealt, I've talked people down from committing suicide. I've dealt with drug overdoses. I've dealt with a vast amount of different issues. And whilst I no longer work at that service, those issues still exist in our communities. We've got people living in conditions that you wouldn't keep your pet in. There's a house in this village that I know of, in other villages, where windows have been smashed for months. Landlords that only see it as a source of income and aren't really interested. And people living in those conditions with, mental illnesses or who are vulnerable is just detrimental to their health, whether that's physical or mental health. The deprivation that exists in this area is really, really saddening. And, I'm not a fortune teller, but after this pandemic is all over and we start to see the real impact that it's had on our communities, our area is going to be one of the worst affected areas. And we need to ensure that we've got strong and driven people at county level to represent those people. And
you'll find, Jay, that as regards health, Lucy Hovels is absolutely spot on behind you. Plenty of opportunity. We've got some exciting developments happening in housing. If we can only drive them through.
What was a long answer? Sorry to butt in.
No, don't worry.
And that was a long answer. All right, go on.
Sorry, what are you saying?
I was just saying, I know I've given a long answer, but I think politics now it's become, you're on that side, I'm on this side, and we're not working together, we're not speaking. I've worked with people who I didn't agree with politically, religiously, professionally. At the end of the day, we've both come together and we've done the best that we can to support our client. And I think the Labour Party
the sort of, it's a very professional place. It's not like parish politics. Sam, ask your question.
Absolutely. So you have already touched on this before. I've just looked up the Green Hill Centre. I love it. I've shot you a like. What campaigns have you been involved with, either inside or outside the Labour Party?
Well, I've given long answers for my other 2 questions, but unfortunately this will be the short one because unfortunately it's the aspect that I have the least experience in. But after watching Chris's interview, if I am nominated, I'm going to be in great hands. And of course, you know, Councillor Hovels has a huge, vast experience. And coming on this show, I guess I can now say is campaigning. So I've been involved with that. In terms of Labour Party activity, I've participated in campaigns, general election, although I may not have agreed with the candidate. I've campaigned for MEP, at a local level, county, parish, and police and crime commissioner, canvass, knocking on doors with the candidates, dishing out leaflets.
Do you enjoy knocking on doors, Jake?
Yeah, I love chatting with people, and
some people have it.
Yeah, I really enjoy it. Don't like being abused, but I don't mind. I'd like enjoying.
Run away.
So that is the aspect that I do need more experience in, and I definitely will do it. And like I say, I'll be in great hands if I'm nominated with the two people that I've mentioned. In terms of community work, though, I haven't mentioned the community centre. I'm always working with those. We have a steering group meeting, which I'm always working with. I've worked and I have a good working relationship with Councillor Hovels. As a parish councillor and chair as the parish council, you know, I'm the face and the representative of the council. I hold surgeries, although not at the minute. I work closely with the centre, and you know, at one stage the centre and the parish didn't really work together. And when I became chair, I didn't really know, you know, why. And for whatever reason, 20 years ago, that was in the past. You know, the community centre are fantastic at holding events and organising activities, but may struggle financially. The parish is the opposite. We may struggle to hold events, but are quite comfortable financially. So why not just, you know, work together? And that's exactly what I did when I became chairman. Again, I don't get, you know, put our differences aside and, you know, work together to better our community. And I know that's a really naive and simple answer, but it is that simple.
That's the future, Jake. That's the future. I'm going to be really cruel, Jake. I'm going to bring this to an end. Thank you very much indeed. It's been sort of the last 2 or 3, don't you think, everybody? You've just thought, wow, these are towering people. It's been an honour having you on, Jake. All the very best. Sort of. It's Monday, isn't it? Monday at 6:30.
Monday night, yes, 6:30, I think.
Well, I think we can say on this, we're going to be rooting for you. All the very best.
Thank you for having me on, everyone. Thank you.
No,
I'm not allowed. I'm a facilitator in all this, so I'm not allowed to say good luck.
And Stuart's a rival, so watch out for him. But I'm going to do it now, Jake, is I'm going to, oh no, I can't, I'm not the co-host. Yes, I am. I'm going to chuck you out of the meeting and back into the waiting room. God bless you.
Thank you. Good night. Thank you.
Thanks, Jake. Brilliant.
Yeah, very impressive. Sort of. Right. Okay. Here we go. Last 2, and we've got we sort of just going very quick. Let's have the. This is the music. This is the music.
Very good.
Very good.
Very good.
But Paulo,
It's only because we've got the rights.
So I think it's exciting music myself, but there we go. Okay, Stuart, high value business travellers to be exempt from quarantine.
Well, that says everything there in that headline, doesn't it? So apparently, if you're a wealthy businessman or woman flying back to England, you don't need to quarantine so you can have your Christmas, shall we say. But if you're just a normal traveller, 2 weeks in a hotel for you, don't you know? So yeah, it's the same as we've seen this, the whole COVID situation, where it's a very different pandemic for wealthier people or people that the government likes to keep on side. It just exposes the whole inequality of how we've tackled the COVID pandemic, and it just highlights how much of a class situation these pandemics, can be.
I mean, do they think that wealthy people are going to be less likely to have it, or have they just this is just a financial calculation that sort of, well, they're bringing in the money, so it's worthwhile them killing us all? I mean, what do you think the thinking is behind it all?
I would imagine that it's because lots of wealthier people or people who work in government even are all over the world, and they want to come back for Christmas, which is fair dues. But because the government is so inclined, they've changed the rules for the small group of people and told the rest of us to go jump. It's unfair. It's unequal. It's not right.
Fiona, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think they tried to sweeten the deal with us by saying that they were extending it to performing art professionals, which is quite a broad term, and journalists, and they did mention elite sportsmen as well. I don't know, that's quite a niche. And I think that was just to cover exactly what we've just been saying, because I find performing art professionals are generally the people who are very successful, so they're rich, I would have thought. I don't think it's your local touring band and things like that. So yeah, it's a bit like fines, isn't it? They only apply to people who can't afford them. And this is the same thing. If you are below a certain bracket, then guess what? The law applies to you. People with money see fines as, well, that's just how much something costs. Nobody else is allowed to park the car there.
That's the point, isn't it?
But if I can pay the fine, then that's just how much it costs. And this feels very much the same. It's, we can afford to do this, therefore we can do it.
Sam, did you indicate that you wanted to speak?
Oh, always. No, not particularly.
Okay, well, what I'm going to do now is I want you to, I'm going to, because we're running out of time, I want you to talk about, does restorative justice work? And this is in relation to a specific event, isn't it?
Yeah, so there is a lovely heartwarming story.
From Newton Aycliffe.
Huh?
From Newton Aycliffe.
From Newton Aycliffe, yes, where the police have engaged, and I know you've got a great policing team in Newton Aycliffe, by the way. Andy Boyd was in Shildon and you nicked him, but I'm not bitter about it. So the police have worked with the community and worked with a group of young people who were engaged with antisocial behaviour, and they've worked together to develop a scheme whereby they're making wreaths. These young people who were causing bother are making wreaths and distributing them to people who they were causing bother for, with an apology. And I mean, there's been loads of chat about this on social media saying, oh, they'll do it again or whatever. But, that's a huge, huge step forward. And also, I think, again, when you're talking about social media, people forget, like, whatever you might feel morally aggrieved by their actions, these are children we're talking about, and they're like, no, bring back the cane, hang around, quarter them. People need to be allowed to change, don't they? I mean, we've got at least 3 teachers on this call who all know the power of a young person's belief that they can change, don't you? A lot of people, including adults, get locked into patterns behaviour because they don't believe they can change. I'm a naughty lad. I've got an anger problem. I can't do exercise. I can't sew. I was taught in school I can't sew. Well, I've worked as a seamstress here because I come out and I taught myself how to sew. These fixed ideas about who we are and what we are poisonous. And what we're seeing is the community reinforcing this idea, saying, oh, they're not going to change. They're not sincere. Give them a chance.
But does restorative justice work then?
I mean, you'd have to talk to the people who received the wreaths. I personally think that, we've got a problem in this country, and we seem to think that we can jail our way out of a crime problem, and that's clearly not working because the jails are full and we need more all the time. We definitely need to look at how we deal with people who've broken the law. And certainly, again, you'll all know this, you'll all know of people who spent their whole adult lives in and out of prison. So obviously just locking people up doesn't work.
Some people prefer to be locked up, to be honest. Paul,
Well, you get institutionalized, don't you, Paul?
what's your take on this?
I was really disappointed when I read the article and I saw some of the comments below. People were like, bring back the birch, and and really trying to like say they wanted to assault children. And it was really funny because it was very similar people to like, well, why aren't the schools open? These vulnerable children need to go to schools. If you're talking about vulnerable children, you've got to accept that, like, these are the children that you're talking about, vulnerable children, young offenders, and it can't be, you can't have it both ways. You can't be like really angry about teachers not accepting vulnerable children and all this education they're going to miss out on, and then also being like, oh, we've got to birch people because these people are absolutely awful and dreadful people. I think people need to understand what they're talking about, and I think this is an example of people just blurting things out without really thinking about what is going on here. I think what we need to do is we need to look at restorative justice. Maybe I think I think that's as much for the perpetrator of crime as the victim, because they've tried to do something nice, and if they learn that doing something nice is better than doing something destructive, then maybe they'll get that warm feeling that you get from doing something good and change your ways. But I think we need to look at the way different countries deal with crime and with rehabilitation, because is what our country is doing rehabilitation, or are we much closer to an American system, which, like, per population, there's more people jailed in America than any other country in the world, and most of them are jailed for like kind of minor drug offenses. They have a zero tolerance policy in a lot of states. This was popularized in New York in the 70s, which kind of, it made an absolute mess, to be honest. This zero tolerance policy, it's been a disaster. And then you look at places in Scandinavia, you look at Finland or Sweden, and they have examples where they don't treat prison like a punishment. They treat it like a re-education center. And, they have a much lower reoffending rate than we do. So their justice system, their rehabilitation system costs a little bit more, but in the long run, it's cheaper because people don't reoffend and end up back in prison. And I think that needs to be a discussion that we have, a nice, sensible discussion, rather than people just screaming, bring back the birch.
We need Mike Dixon on. He has some. Mike Dixon was a prison chaplain. That was his job. And my golly, he's got something to say about rehabilitation in prison, which are worth listening to. Fiona, you're presumably some of the people you deal with are some of the very people who Samantha was talking about. Is the young child who get involved in crime, or are they?
I do with my job as an RT. We deal with over 18s. We deal with adults, but we do deal with a lot of vulnerable people, and who are often excluded from the community. So we don't deal with a lot of people who've been prosecuted, but I do volunteer for a soup kitchen, and we deliver to people in Sunderland. And you see it all being part of the same thing, where people think, oh, well, you've got a soup kitchen, that's brilliant, people get food. But then when you see where they live, where you're dropping the food off, and whether they have mental health issues, they have inadequate housing, and then people are up in arms going, and people are being antisocial. You go, it all comes from the same pot of people just feeling like they've been disregarded, that nobody cares about them, they're in poverty, And it's a massive problem in Sunderland. And people go, and now their kids are being disruptive. We don't have any facilities in Sunderland. I was an absolute horrible teenager. And we had a leisure centre in the youth club. You know, when you're that age, you don't know that you are being antisocial quite often. You're just having a laugh with your mates, and because you're not aware of your impact on the wider community or your neighbours. And if you have other things to worry about, you're going to care even less about that. So, yeah, we need more support for the whole age range, you know. If your parents...
One of my big things is that they closed down the youth clubs. They closed down the open access youth clubs. And we got 3 years whilst that lustrum went through having had that support. And now you've got an aimless group of children who've just grown up hanging around within their own very small bubbles. And sort of I blame that. And I blame the government that withdrew the funding for it. I'm quite Paul Daly-ish about it when you get me on that one. So, I mean, just before I come to I'll come to Stuart and to finish off. We are just on the cusp of finishing. Stuart, my belief on this is that you have to see the perpetrator as more tragic than the victim. I mean, obviously, if somebody's murdered, that's not the case. But in terms of antisocial behaviour, sometimes the perpetrator is a bigger tragedy than the victim who's had mud chucked at their house or things like that. I mean, sort of, what's your take on this? And we'll close the show.
I'll tell you a quick story. When I was a kid, I wasn't always like a goody two-shoes. So we had a main road.
We don't believe you, Stuart.
No, I was a bad one of 5 brothers. So main road going through the town, and me and my brothers had some penny sweets, and we would chuck them into the traffic and time it so it would bounce off the car windscreen. And eventually, big old fella gets out, chases us, clip around the ear. You know, physically painful. You know, battered as a child by an adult. You know, it didn't once stop me from going back the next day and doing the same thing, or again and again and again. You know,
you were just clever at getting away next time.
I plan my route. You know, this idea of certain people saying you need to punish somebody this way doesn't work. You know, you need to give somebody the opportunity to do something different.
And on that bombshell, I'm going to bring the show to an end. So that let's say our thank yous. Fiona, you've just been wonderful. Thank you very much for putting up with us.
Thank you for having me. It's been an honour. And you're all much nicer than I was expecting.
Not question time.
You've been lovely. Yeah.
No, you've been absolutely great. Thank you for your insights, and thank you particularly for your room, which is just spectacularly beautiful. To the team, Paul, God bless you. We all know that you're the one who sets it going and sets it goes up, and then you're the one who we always come to tell us the facts. God bless you. Thank you so much. Sam, we feel for your chickens. Sort of look after them. And Stuart, Mr. Deep Insight. God bless you all.
Dark horse.
Sorry?
He's a dark horse.
Well, he is at the moment. He needs to bring back that light that he had. But there we go. Right, listeners. Thank you so much for listening to us. Good, eh? Good. It's good as this show. They're very good, aren't they? And what we're going to do now is we listen to No Pasaran, sort of, and then we come back. Samantha, and I'm going to make her this time read out your comments. Sort of, it got all very sloppy last week, and then sort of I'm going to assert myself. We're going to read out your comments for about half an hour, and sort of, you don't have to come back for that. So if you're going goodbye, God bless you. We love you very much. Remember that last week is the next week is the last one before Christmas, so you mustn't miss that. But so if you want to come back with us for it's a bit more chilled out, and Fiona, don't go. You're in this as well for the last time. So sometimes I guess jigger off and leave us. And it's a bit more easy and relaxed and less formal. So God bless. See you next week. Say bye bye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye bye. No passer.
Keep the red flag flying, dear.